Hello and welcome to another edition of Sadler's TV. We're here inside the 1888 club at the Banksy Stadium, and we're going to discuss the inner workings of the football club with two very special guests. First and foremost, the Chief Executive, Stefan. Stefan, good to have you with us. And of course, Club Secretary Dan Mardan, good to have you with us as well. Steph, if I could start with you. The club once again posted healthy profits this season, third year running now. In your opinion, what's key to running a healthy and successful and sustainable football club?
It's actually 10 years in a row profit and 19 out of 22. So it's a very simple philosophy we run on, and that's don't budget to spend more than you earn.
Ticket sales up as well, which is always good news. It means that just more fans are getting down here to watch the team as well.
Yeah, very much so, and they've got something to shout about. We're playing a nice brand of football, and for the last 2 or 3 years, we've had some success on the pitch, and supporters have recognised that, and they're coming in their numbers.
So why is it then that there seems to be a story every other week about a football club that seems to be struggling? In your opinion, is it just mismanagement from the top?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for other football clubs, but again, coming back to that very simple principle of only spending what you generate, I think some clubs struggle to adhere to that principle for various different reasons, but it's one that has stood us in good stead over the years.
One of the main criticisms of football clubs at the moment is there's not enough football people, per se, at the very top. Do you agree that there's not enough people that understand the game?
I think it's vital to have people who understand football, but as directors and a board, we obviously put the responsibility on the management team to make those football decisions on our behalf. They're better qualified to do it than us, but certainly at the top level it's always useful to have football people.
Dan, bringing you in, how well equipped are we operationally for both this season and dare I say life in the Championship if we get there next year?
Wow, it's October now, don't get too carried away. This season, yeah, we are. I mean, I've been with the football club 14 years, Stefan, in virtually exactly the same time. I think we started about a month apart, didn't we?
Yeah, something
way back
like
then.
that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I had a longer head of hair back then, so times have changed, and I think we're in a better position now than we ever have been. The Championship's not something that we will be discussing in October, but having been in the Championship during my time, I think that the football club under Stefan's stewardship is in a really good place to go into higher divisions and compete. You
were both here the last time you were in the second tier of English football. Just what is the major differences between League One and Championship football for the club?
I mean, Stefan will obviously talk about from a financial point of view, from an operational point of view, I was going to say the pressure's on, but it's not so much the pressure's on, but every game is a big fixture. Every single game, you look at that division now, and I think it's probably right to say that the Championship would be the equivalent of our Premiership, really. Every week would be a massive fixture. There's a lot of local derbies in there as well. The income that you receive from the Football League is far superior to that you pick up in League One. So it is a bit of a game changer, but I mean, obviously as CEO, Stefan knows a bit more about that than myself.
And we are only in October, but we're a third of the way through the league campaign. Up there, first versus second at the weekend. Is there a belief behind the scenes that it could be a special season this year?
Yeah, I think we go into every season, don't we, Steph? Wanting to
every
finish
season,
top?
yeah, every season the aim is promotion, be that by the playoffs or automatic. And we've come close in terms of getting into those playoffs in recent years. And this time, we've had a very good start and given ourselves a chance. But it's still early days, as Dan says.
It's the way we're playing as well at the moment, though, that gives you real heart for what we can achieve. We spoke about the philosophy of the football club on many occasions, that the fans have bought into that blueprint that has been led by the chairman, Stefan, myself and the remainder of the board, and obviously Dean as manager and Neil as head of youth. It runs throughout the football club now, and I think that's something that everyone can believe in, but when you start getting results as well, it's something that you can really harness and push forward, and I think that's where we are at this moment in time.
Steph, it's been a fantastic year for the club as well, 2015. How much momentum did we gain, perhaps for this season, off the back of that Johnson Paint Trophy appearance in the final at Wembley?
I think it was pretty significant. It gave us a glimpse of what is achievable, what is possible. I think after the final, we suffered a temporary dip, but from the summer onwards, building, I think it's certainly been at the forefront of most people's mind. It is to achieve more success and push on from here. So yeah, it was important.
the hysteria leading up to it and the hype was phenomenal. I've been sat in the office here at the stadium. It was amazing. But how difficult was it to coordinate? I mean, you've got 30,000 fans going to the stadium. Just on a tickets point of view, it must have been difficult. It
was certainly a challenge. You know, it was the first time in 127-year history that we'd been to Wembley, so people were very, very excited and interested to go. But we had to go from an operation where we sold 4,000 tickets on average per game to 30,000 tickets in the space of about 6 weeks, and logistically it was a challenge, and at times there were big queues, but we got through it, and everybody that wanted a ticket ultimately got the ticket and went and had a great day.
Just looking here up at the marketing awards next week, the We Are Walsall campaign in association with HomeServe and Walsall Council, up against the FA, Celtic and Norwich and Wolves, so there's some big boys in there as well. But how much did the campaign and the whole appearance at Wembley bring the whole town together? Because there was that feel of togetherness in the town as well.
Yeah, very much so. I think the campaign sort of epitomised the feeling that was around in the borough. It was a proud moment for us as a club, but really the whole town bought into it, and it was a real proud moment for everybody associated with Walsall, that we were taking a team to the National Stadium, the home of football, and the campaign is quite rightly being recognised in these awards, and as you say, we're up against some illustrious counterparts, so who knows, maybe we can pull it off.
Dan, as we mentioned, 30,000 supporters there. Admittedly, there would have been some from Villa, Blues, Wolves, Baggies supporting the Saddlers. Are you happy with the label of being the Midlands' second favourite club?
No, we're a football club within our own right. We've got a very proud history over 127 years. And that's got to be in the forefront of our mind at all times. But you have to concede at times that the other football clubs on the patch, the Aston Villas, Birmingham Cities, Wolves and West Bromwich Albion, have got a bigger supporter base and have achieved more in their history than we have. But you can't just look at the history, you've got to look towards the future. And I think that we're at least in a position where we can influence the future. And without sounding too corny, I think the future's pretty bright here.
We saw from our Friend for a Fiver campaign or initiative a few weeks ago at the Burton game. Of course, it was international break, so a great opportunity for us to get some fans down here and reward the current fans as well. And we had some great reaction to it. Just looking on Twitter, we had fans from local clubs saying it was great value for money and a great brand of football they came down here and watched as well.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that there's something real about coming to watch Walsall Football Club. I think that the players aren't on an elevated level whereby you can't get near them. I think that the likes of myself and Stefan are very approachable, and I think that the USP of the football club has got to be the role that we play within the community and the fact that we are a family orientated football club. And I think that is something that, okay, we might not be able to compete financially on the field with our rivals in the area, but with respect at times, I don't think they can compete with us in the way that we're able to achieve that sense of belonging, that sense of family and that sense of community.
Is it all about opening up lines of communication and having those channels of communication between supporters and the club?
Yeah, I mean, because the supporters are the club. Stefan's the club, Jeff's the club, Dean's the club, you're the club. Everyone who works for the football club is a part of the football club. Everyone who supports the football club is part of the football club. And no one element is more superior than another. Stefan and I have been in place as Secretary and CEO, I think, is it 4 or 5?
This is my 6th year as CEO.
And in that time, we've introduced bi-monthly meetings with the supporter groups. We've continued down the lines of our fans forums. And I know that manager as well, obviously, he hosts fans forums. And I think that they're important to speak to supporters in person. But I think that the world that we live in today with social media, and with respect to the job that you do and Daniel Briggs does and Daniel Clark does from a communications point of view, has put us in a position where we can talk to supporters a lot easier and a lot freely, and I think that they feel part of what we're trying to achieve here.
On the flip side of that, then why do you think there is a disconnect? The higher you go, it seems, up the hierarchy of football clubs, that there's that sort of ivory tower that's often thrown at footballers and football clubs between supporters and the club. Why isn't there that connection that perhaps there is at Walsall?
Well, I think a big part of our philosophy is not only about the on the field, how the way we play, and so on and so forth. It's also about the way we recruit and the importance of our academy to the club. And a big part of that is recruiting locally within the area, bringing local youngsters through, many of which get into the first team. And there's very few clubs that can rival us in that respect. But also at board level, all of the members of the board are actually supporters of the club. So I think when you look at the other clubs that have got ownership outside of those sort of parameters, then it's easy to see why there might be a disconnect between fans.
I suppose the community programme plays a huge part here at Worcester as well, getting out into the community and the players, being visible to school kids who they all started as a football playing school kid, isn't it?
But it shouldn't be any different. I mean, it's a sad indictment of the world through your eyes then that you see it in that way and others see it in that way, because football has always been about communities. That's why the old stadium was built in the middle of a housing estate, and that's what it's all about. And I don't think we've ever lost sight of that. And I think as well, from a supporter's point of view, that can relate a bit more to our players and our staff, more so than maybe in the higher echelons of the Premier League, when you're looking at money that is almost obscene, to be perfectly honest.
We're going to take a short break here on Saddlers TV. Join us for the second half of the programme, where we're going to put some supporters' questions to Stefan and Dan. Join the debate on Twitter at WFC Official using the hashtag Saddlers TV. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Saddlers TV. Walsall Chief Executive Stefan Gamble and Club Secretary Dan Moore have joined me at the table today. Before we get on with the second half of the show, some supporters' questions. First and foremost, Tamid Ahmed asks, are you looking to give some new contracts to some of our players? So I suppose that's maybe one for Steph to tackle.
Yeah, of course. We've got a number of players out of contracts at the end of the season. A number of those are very important to the squad. And, of course, we want to secure their futures for longer at the club, as we always do.
Second up is Wayne Stevens. He asks, is it possible to purchase another striker, as we still need one if Tom Bradshaw gets injured? The golden boy Tom Bradshaw, of course. So I suppose, is there a possibility for us to purchase one if we need one?
There's still scope within Dean's budget to bring a player in, but obviously that's the manager's decision at the end of the day. But if you're asking me if there's scope to do so, then yes, there is.
Kevin Watkins says, I suppose a question for both of you really, what's the best match you've witnessed during your time at the club? So, best match
you go first.
Yeah, well, my favourite match is probably opening day of the season, 2003, 2004. We played West Brom. We just signed Paul Merson. Glorious hot sunny day, to capacity over 11,000 here, and we won 4-1 with Merson scoring 2. So many happy remembers from that day. But unfortunately, at the end of that season, I think we ended up getting relegated and they got promoted to the Premier League. So, but it was still a great day and a fantastic match that will live long in the memory.
I think I've seen the videos that every goal was like a stunning.
Yeah, Merce scored 2, Corica and George later.
Yeah.
Amazing. Dan, same game?
I should have gone first, because that's my favourite game. But to be honest, there's been a few. I know we was talking about goals in the office not so long back, and I think from that same season, Junior scored against Preston, didn't he? Where he beat 2 men and curled it right into the top bin, as the footballers tend to say. There's been a few. I mean, just getting to Wembley as well. I mean, the game itself here against Preston wasn't the greatest game that I've seen, but just the raw emotions at the full-time whistle, to think that you're going to see your team at Wembley. You know, we were one of 4 teams who hadn't got there. So I think the Preston game is one. There's lots of games that, more so as you get older, it's more about incidents. Like look at Roger Bolly's goal against Southend over head kick, one of the best goals that I've ever seen live, and that was before I worked at the football club, so that's a special memory for me as well.
Gary Diaz, that's a tricky one. Why is the club shop so poorly stocked? He's calling for more variety in office shirts and caps. A bit specific there. So I suppose one for the club shop.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously depending on what people like. It's depending on whether you think that the shop's poorly stocked or not. I could have both
together, an office shirt and a cap would be
possibly not. Look. Yeah, different look. But no, I mean, it's a good point. Was it Gary?
Gary.
A point made by Gary, and one that we'll take back to the club shop manager to look at in terms of what we actually stock in there. It's something that we have been speaking about in terms of putting in merchandise that appeals to the younger generation as well. We do an awful lot of work with our Team Saddlers campaign, as you know, Dale, which is free football for all under 18s, and with that you encourage younger supporters, and with that their requirements from merchandise are different to an adult. So it's something that we are looking at in terms of different stocks that we carry in the shop.
And finally, Stu Davis asks, are there plans to improve the flow of traffic after a game, as all car parks lead to the same single road?
Yes. What was the gentleman's name again?
Stu.
Yes, Stu. Yeah, there are. I mean, we've already put the double yellow lines in place, which have helped in terms of not allowing cars to park on the road before a game. So then, after the game, it's a lot easier to get the flow onto Bescott Crescent. At the moment, the lights at the top of Bescott Crescent onto Wallows Lane are automated. We have been speaking to the local authority about looking at getting those manually changed, because obviously a human looking at it can realise that this needs to be on red for this to go onto green, etc. I sit on a safety advisory group meeting alongside the chair of that on a quarterly basis. Our next meeting is December, and I'll happily put that to the local authority on behalf of our supporters.
Fantastic. Hopefully we've answered a few of those questions. Steph, I'm going to pose a few more to you. Another top of the table clash then down here on Saturday. It was Burton a few weeks ago, Gillingham this time around, but fantastic games to be in, aren't they, at this stage of the season?
It's brilliant. It's great to be challenging at the right end of the table. The fact that we're having first versus second for the second time this season at home is great, and it just stokes supporters' interest. We're expecting another decent crowd on Saturday, and it all helps to increase that overall matchday experience, to have a good atmosphere inside the ground.
Something riding on the game.
Yeah, and something really important on the game. And a vocal support really does spur the players on. So it's fantastic. It's fantastic to be involved in these sort of games, and hopefully that will go on throughout the season.
You touched upon it earlier on, but we talk about the remit of promotion. Were there any sort of sit down at the table discussions at the start of this? Someone says, right, these are our objectives for this season, or is it literally a rollover? We aim for promotion every season.
I think at the outset, the mindset is that we're going to go for promotion every year, whether it's, as I say, through automatic or through the playoffs. It's ultimately what we want to achieve, and so we don't sit down and set very specific targets, but that general objective of achieving promotion is always on the cards.
Just looking here, you've spent a lot of time obviously travelling to away games with opposition boards, directors. What are they saying about the club in general, about our start to the season? It's just quite interesting to hear what the opposition, their view is on the club.
Yeah, I think within the football family we've got an excellent reputation, both for everything we do on the field, but everything we do off the field as well. You mentioned earlier obviously that it's important that we turn a profit and we break even every year. In doing so, we put everything that we can generate back into the football side of the business, but we get very, very positive compliments about how it's run. But in recent years, since Dean's been in charge, we've had glowing reports really from all over football about how the team's playing, individual players being picked out for flair, and it's really nice to have those sort of positive comments and feedback, because it's obviously we're doing something right.
I think it's nice because you are getting those compliments, but you don't feel like it's a one-season wonder at the football club. I think that because we've got that philosophy in place, and we've got a really strong academy of players coming in through a very young, hungry squad, which isn't just by luck, it's by the way that the manager recruits, means that when we are getting the compliments, you're not fearful that this is your one chance to achieve something. You know that the blueprint that you've got in place is one that, if you continue to adhere to, eventually you'll reap the rewards.
Do you get tired then, I suppose, of hearing the pundits say, well, we didn't expect Walsall to be up there at this stage, or Walsall-Gillingham are top of the table clash? Has it ever become tiresome from your point of view?
Well, I think in fairness, in recent years, that in terms of being mentioned in those breaths, it's becoming less and less, because people aren't surprised that we're up there. The pundits, when the match is reported on a Saturday evening, they're not surprised anymore. Perhaps in the past that might have been the case, punching above our weight potentially, but now I think we're where people expect us to be, and they expect us to be strong. They expect us to play good football, and again, that's credit to the management team.
It's of course October 31st, Halloween down here, but I think on a more sombre note, the Royal British Legion and the Girls Venture Corps cadets coming down here as well. Are they going to form a guard of honour for the players, and as well as the Poppy Appeal? Real touching day, I think, for everyone that comes down here to the Bankses.
Yeah, it's our closest league game to Remembrance Sunday, and as we do every year, we feel it's appropriate to dedicate a game to the Poppy Appeal and the British Legion. And I'm really, really pleased this year that we've got the standard bearer as well, because I think that just adds something to the whole occasion, and to think that there'll be standard bearers either side of the two teams as they lead out, I think that'll look phenomenal, especially with a busy game. Fair play to the community programme, it's our school's partners game as well. I think over 1,300 tickets have been sold to local school children as well, so the community stand will be absolutely packed to the rafters as well, plus, as Stefan alluded to, it's first versus second, so that in itself will attract a bigger crowd. So the fact that we've got the poppy appeal here, the fact that we've got a bumper crowd, the fact that it's Halloween and you're wearing your mask early is wonderful.
Cheers, Dan.
So
Yeah,
the whole
thanks for that.
occasion is going to be one that we're all looking forward to.
I know you both made a trip to the National Memorial Arboretum as well earlier this week. Just tell us a little bit about what you've done there and what the real, I suppose, laying the wreath and the poppy at the memorial is one aspect, but I think just remembering that Christmas truce, football again, bringing people together.
Yeah, we've spoken about it in the past, how football can harness people together, and at its most truest and realist, it can be really, really powerful. And you look at that, I mean, that's the British and the German soldiers at war, killing each other. They stop to have a game of football, and you look at what the emotions are within those people, and I think that it's really important from the football club's point of view that the statue was erected last year, and this was the first year that it's been in place for ourselves to visit from a Remembrance Sunday point of view, and myself, Stefan, Mick Kearns as club ambassador, Dean Smith as manager, and Jeff Bonser as chairman, felt that it was only right and proper, didn't we, Steph, to go and visit and to pay our respects.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an important thing to remember, and football clubs, we spoke about it earlier with the We Are Walsall campaign, bring people together in a way that very few other organisations can do. So it's only right and proper that as clubs that are at the heart of communities recognise that fact and play our part and bring people together to help remember those lost in conflicts across the globe.
I suppose the message is just donate what you can afford, however large or small, it all counts.
Very much so. It doesn't matter the size of the donation. It's the thought that counts, and to ensure that those people are always remembered.
Fantastic discussion again, folks. Thanks ever so much for coming on, Steph and Dan. That's all we've got time for here on Saddlers TV. Join us next time, of course, on the debate as well on Twitter @WFC Official. Thanks again.